Good morning. Barry Bryson here. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We are in Mark's Gospel, and we're in chapter 15. We're going to pick up with verse 16. I know it's Christmas Eve and tomorrow is Christmas, but even though it is the 24th, we're not taking a day off. Just catch up with these when you can. But I don't want us to get out of the habit of doing this, and so I've gone ahead and recorded one for Christmas Eve, as I will have one for New Year's Eve as well. You don't have to watch them till you can get to them, or at all. This is just something that I hope we enjoy doing together. Chapter 15, beginning with verse 6, we're going to read through verse 15. The Jews have brought Jesus to Pilate. And we talked a lot about Pilate and Caiaphas yesterday and established what we know historically about their relationship. If you didn't catch yesterday's, go back and look at it. It'll help you understand more of what's going on today. This is a long account, not nearly so long as what we get in John, but this is a long account compared to the same events in Matthew and Luke. So let's just read them. Now at the feast, he, meaning Pilate, used to release for them one prisoner whom they requested. And the man named Barabbas the man named Barabbas had been imprisoned with the insurrectionists who had committed murder in the insurrection. And the multitude went up and began asking him to do as he had been accustomed to do for them. And Pilate answered them, saying, "Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?" For he was aware that the chief priests had delivered him up because of their envy. But the chief priests stirred up the multitude to ask him to release Barabbas for them instead. And answering Pilate, he was saying to them, "Then what shall I do with him whom you call the king of the Jews?" And they shouted back, "Crucify him." But Pilate was saying to them, "What evil? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him." And wishing to satisfy the multitude, Pilate released Barabbas for them, and after having Jesus scourged, he delivered him to be crucified. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. What we don't get in Mark is that this is the last-ditch effort Pilate makes to release Jesus. We know that from Luke's Gospel and from John's Gospel, that he sends Jesus to Herod Antipas, because Herod's there in Jerusalem for Passover, and he rules Galilee, and trying to pass the buck, trying to send Jesus to someone else. Maybe Herod will take him back as a prisoner to Galilee, or put him into prison at Machaerus in Perea, where John the Baptist was held. I don't know, but get this man out of my custody into someone else. And of course that doesn't work. And then he has him severely beaten, puts him in a robe, crown of thorns, and presents him to the crowd, John tells us, and says, "Behold the man." To me, as a last-ditch effort to say, look, he suffered, so let me release this guy. I know you don't like this guy, but look what I did to him. Let me release him. And then he says, let me release this guy instead of Barabbas. This is his last effort to try to find a way to let Jesus go. And of course, all these fail. We notice how quickly the crowds, it was only a day ago that the high priest and the security force of the temple, they were trying to find a place to take Jesus secretly so that they wouldn't stir up the crowds. See how fickle the crowd is. I mean, it takes less than 24 hours. The minute they see Jesus humiliated, I'm sure that it had the opposite effect that Pilate was expecting. There's no pity. There is defiant disgust that this man they put their hopes in is not the man they expected him to be. Of course, he is their Messiah, just not the Messiah they were looking for. And so they cry out, "Crucify him, crucify him." And then wanting to please the crowds, we talked yesterday about Pilate's legal troubles with Caiaphas and the Jews, and his violating their rights inside the city of Jerusalem already. So, he's in a bind here. He releases Jesus. He delivers him first to be scourged. We need to talk about that, as we'll talk about crucifixion tomorrow. The scourging had a purpose, and it wasn't just to beat someone. It was part of the crucifixion event. It was preliminary to crucifixion. We'll talk more about crucifixion tomorrow, but the scourging was long and it was hard, and the purpose of it was to lacerate back and shoulder muscles, and to bleed, and to exhaust a prisoner before the execution on the cross, so that the execution on the cross would not take quite so long as it could take, which could be days. And sometimes the scourging was not done because they wanted it to be torturous. They wanted the person to linger before they were crucified. I read somewhere that Spartacus was not scourged before his crucifixion. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But in a sense, the scourging was a way of making this quicker, allowing someone to die more quickly. And but it was brutal. It was vicious, to the point that the Roman soldiers would take turns because they'd wear themselves out, taking these whips that had multiple leather thongs embedded with bits of metal and bone, and just one on one side, one on the other, wail away on a guy's back and shoulders until he was sufficiently bled and lacerated and exhausted to go to the cross. And that's what they did. That's what they did to Jesus. And we'll read about that tomorrow and the other things they did to him, because they did even more. And we'll read about that next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 Good Minutes with the Word.